and authority building, which is what I was doing through SEO, establish themselves locally as their authority.
Professionals keep hearing the same advice. Post less. Only post when you have something important to say. Focus on quality over quantity. But what if that advice is actually slowing your authority growth? Today, we are breaking down one of the biggest debates in content marketing. Should professionals post more or post better? And more importantly, what are you actually trying to accomplish? Welcome back to Authority Matters. I'm Leann Lyon, and this is our series from the Legal Podcast Network. And now the Authority Podcast Network as well, where we break down how authority gets built online through founder led media, personal branding, and strategic content. In Series 1, the first 4 episodes, we talked about why authority matters. Now we're getting practical. Series 2 is all about how authority gets built in real life. And today we're tackling one of the most common questions professionals ask: how often should I actually post? I am joined, as always, by Dennis DM Meador, founder of the Legal Podcast Network and the Authority Podcast Network, and better known around here as Bam Ma'am. And now it's time to bam. Let's get into it. There's a lot of advice floating around online right now, DM. Post less, focus on quality, don't post just for the sake of posting. Do you agree?
No, not at all. I think I don't know where this urban legend came from. There is no algorithmic proof, in spite of what I see some people say on LinkedIn. There's no algorithmic proof that, creating scarcity in content makes it more valuable. I mean, that's essentially the premise of that. By creating scarcity with your own content, it makes it more valuable. And no, I totally disagree. And I will say this, one of my favorite ways to debate is when I just present my side. I seem to always win that way. And so I'm ready to present my side. And people can debate me in the comments. They can debate me on some sort of social media, whatever. But hey, like, the proof is in the revenue.
And yeah, I'm all ears here as a content creator as well, right? Like this is a big topic. So you talk a lot about cultivation versus chasing. How does posting frequency connect to that idea?
Well, I think most people see content in kind of like the old world media and marketing. So to them, content is about posting this thing, and they make content the destination, not the journey on someone else's destination. And so what ends up happening is they create this piece of content, or they create this concept, and they come out with it. And then it's like they think that it just needs to sit there, kind of like a newspaper ad, and it's like flat, and you read it, and you need to read it 1,000 times, and then it'll finally go into your head. And that's the thought process I personally think behind don't post too often, blah, 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 is that, yeah, I mean, yes, if you're posting something static that's self-serving, that's all about you over and over, then yeah, go ahead and just post it every once in a while. But if you are actually creating content that is of value and connects with people and helps them along their journey, whatever that journey is, or takes them along on your journey, I don't think that you need to be worried about the how often you post as much as the methodology, the systems, and the message that you're posting itself.
So then you're saying basically that frequency creates trust.
Yes, I mean, I think it does with the right balance. I mean, again, if you're just posting, you've got 5 ads somebody made for you, and, oh, this is my car crash thing, and I'm going to post it 8 times a day, that's not going to create trust. But if you're telling a story throughout the day or throughout your content, then posting however many times a day, 3, once, 8, every 3 days, whatever it is, then that takes people along. And so you're not worried about the cadence, again, as much as you are about the message.
So, does it matter what platform we're talking about in this case?
So I personally am platform agnostic. I think there are some asterisks to that, but here's the way that I think about it. Everyone, oh, I'm business to business, so I'm only gonna post on LinkedIn because that's where my audience is. I hear that all the time. That's where my audience is. Here's the thing. Yes, that one particular platform, whatever it is, might have a higher concentration of your audience than other places. But there's two things to consider in that. Number one, you've got to think about the fact that if you know that's where your audience is, guess who else knows where that all your audience is? Your competitors. And so you are entering a much more competitive place to reach people. So it's a semi-crowded market with people that are trying to reach the same target audience. Secondly, when you kind of take that into consideration, so now let's say I only post on LinkedIn because that's where that's where my audience is. Okay. But if you go to Meta, so your Facebook, Instagram, now Threads, and you go to here and you're like, okay, 30% of my Facebook followers are my ideal client profile. And maybe you have 1,000 followers here, and over here you have 500, and only 10% of them are, whatever, 10% of them fit your ideal client profile. Well, if you stack several other places that have 10%, you can double your audience with of your ICP, your ideal client profile, not Insane Clown Posse. You can double your ICP, and that second half that you're going after is a lot less competitive. So I can go into one spot where 50 people are trying to go after 100, or I can go to 10 spots where I'm the only person going after 10 in each of them. And where am I more likely to be successful? Sure, I have to be in the first spot, but I should probably be in spots 2 through 11 as well.
Now, somebody might listening might say, "Well, DM, come on. Nobody wants more bad content." So, where does quality fit into all this? I mean, do we just repost somebody's silly meme or do we have to come up with like life-changing content every other day? What's your thoughts?
First of all, how you source your content is probably the biggest drag, or can be the biggest drag. If you sit down every day and you just go, and I don't mean drag like, ah, it's a drag, man, but like a drag down on your systems. So
Hmm.
like if you sit down in the morning and you go, okay, LinkedIn, what am I gonna bless you with today? I did read that one article last night about this, and I did have that one friend text me about that. And oh, I had that thing where my kid ate ice cream and it was cute. I could probably turn that into a business story. Then, yeah, it's going to be hard to post regularly with some sort of value and some sort of story behind it. What I have found is the more you can incorporate content creation as part of your everyday life, the better. Like, for example, like with my team, when I do trainings and when I do team meetings, everything's recorded. And so my team takes, and I have somebody, or, I could be doing it as well. I can look over the transcripts and be like, oh, that's a good little spot. And I can use that. So that's one way that, like, I'll see a post and I'll be like, oh, I'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll be like, wait, didn't I just talk to Rochelle about that like last Thursday? I'm like, oh, this is the post. So that's one way that, I get a lot of content out of just my everyday life. I'm not thinking about content. I'm just being myself, talking about the things I talk about, and content comes out of it. The other thing is, I do a ton of voice notes, usually to the person that it has to do with, but sometimes that ends up being content, or I'll file it into content thoughts. So I'll be sitting there, and I have to be careful though, like with my wife, because she kind of gets a little like this is our time. So I'll be like, post about blah 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 blah. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was just nothing, honey." But but like because of the way my mind works, like because we all think of something, and then later we're like, "What was I thinking about last night? Was it?" And then you forget it, and
Mhm.
so it's a lot easier to create good content when it's just a flow from who you are naturally in your everyday life versus a task that you sit down or you have to purposefully do, you're going to put yourself into writer's block 75% of the time. And so, yes, good quality content comes from a place of a natural flow of who we are and what we're doing while we're doing it. And so capturing that as much as possible is the easiest way. And like this really just goes back to like the Gary V method that we've seen for a dozen or more years. Like, how does Gary Vee have so much content? He's got 3 freaking cameras following him everywhere. Like, he's just sitting in his car and he just has the thought and he looks over at his cameraman and he starts blah, 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 blah. Well, I can't afford, nor do I really want 3 cameramen following me through the grocery store, right? But what I can do is when that thought kind of comes, I can capture it and use it.
Absolutely. So, with regards to that, I mean, you're kind of content creating all the time, and I know we'll get into this in other episodes, but what about pre-planning content or pre-posting content? What are your thoughts with that then?
I mean, those who don't plan to fail, right? I think that most everything we post here, there is room for inspiration inside of structure. So I
Mhm.
think you have to have structure with room for good things to happen. And I mean, it's simple analogy is sports, right? You have a certain play where this guy goes here and this girl goes there and this happens and that happens and it results in this. But then in the midst of that, an opportunity comes or something pops up and the person does something and people are like, wow. So inspiration came in a moment of structure, and honestly, the easiest way for inspiration to come is through structure. And I think most of us don't, we hear that and we kind of might bristle a little bit, but that's reality. If you have a structure that you work within, then you don't have to be afraid that moment of inspiration will be something that it doesn't put pressure on that moment of inspiration. It just comes.
So, what's the danger of waiting until everything is perfect?
Well, because that point never comes. Like I can't tell you the number of times, we triple check and then send our stuff to our clients and then they have people that check. So we like triple check content. I always like to use this illustration. Like I remember I was in the ministry for a number of years and I know I've shared this with you, but I don't know if I've shared it on this podcast. And I remember we would buy these Bibles and every once in a while, we'd buy a Bible and someone would come up and be like, there's a typo in this Bible. And I'm thinking, and we always use the King James version, which came out in 1611. So we're talking about 400 years ago. This thing came out. Now they've revised it based on English and things like that a little bit. So here we are, 400 years later, with a book that's been read countless times, and yet still every once in a while something gets through and there's an error. So if we can't get it right after 400 years, why are you waiting around for 4 hours, 4 days, 4 months, or 4 years? Just look at it, get it double checked, get it out. And if you mess it up, they've got this beautiful thing on social media called the edit button. And if it's in your videos and things like that, listen, it's never been a greater time to be a human because the more humanity we show in our content, the more likely it is to be consumed. I was just telling somebody this the other day. Sometimes you end up like editing out or editing things so much that people will be like, was that AI? Was that even a real person?" And it's like, why is that? Because we have come to expect humanity and we actually crave it now because we're looking inside of machines to connect to other people. So mistakes are actually the preferred form of content, like viable mistakes, right? Not like, big huge ones, but like mistakes are not just accepted but preferred in what we're doing now.
Actually, I'm going to tie on to that one. When I edit videos, now it's popping up. Do you want to remove all the space, all the ums, all the ahs, all the you knows? And I'm often saying, no, I don't want to. I judiciously will remove some of those, but I keep a lot of them in. Is that what you're talking about?
Partially, yes, but even a typo, even like on a post, on whatever social media outlet, and you see that there's a little tiny typo, like sometimes I'll correct it, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? I put an N between the I and the T, so it doesn't say it says int. Okay, like I'm okay with that because again, like in a way, I'm Morse coding other humans that hey, a real person wrote this because perfection is the new plastic. Like we have more respect for humanity because that's what we relate to than we do perfection now.
I
5
love
years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say this, by the way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And I love that you actually leave the typos in. I tend to still go back and correct them, but
Well,
no,
if it's a gross one, if
sure.
people read it or if it's something that could be interpreted, obviously, like, you wanna do that, but something small that, again, I call that Morse coding humanity.
I like that. Great term. Well, let's make this practical. How often do you think professionals should be posting?
It depends on a few variables, but honestly, as often as you feel comfortable. If once a day is something that kinda or maybe as often as you feel slightly uncomfortable. Maybe that's a better thing to say. Because I think if I say as often as you're comfortable, people are like, "Once a year is gonna do? That'll work for me." Once a week, that works, So, but as often as you feel comfortable that you don't feel like you're forcing something. If things are flowing from you because you've captured them in the moment versus you've created them when you had to sit down and quote unquote create, then yeah, like LinkedIn. And right now I'm in LinkedIn jail. Hopefully soon, by the time this comes out, I'll be out of it. Basically, my VA logged in while I was in, and they were like, "Oh, you can't have more than one user." And so I've been in LinkedIn jail for 2 weeks. Hopefully, we'll be out soon. Hopefully, by the time this goes out, we'll be out of it. I think in the next day or two. But there are days when we have scheduled content every day, one, two, three posts. I think it's 3 posts. So I think we went 3 to 2 and back to 3 or wherever we're at, but we have scheduled content that goes out from me. And these are me, it's me on video, it's me that's something I did a while ago, it's whatever. But then sometimes I'm just like sitting there and I'm think about something and I'm like, "You know what?" And I just will post it right on LinkedIn. Sometimes I posted on LinkedIn an hour ago. "Oh, well, you're going to confuse the algorithm." It's like, I'm going to confuse the algorithm by posting twice in 2 hours? No, it's not going to happen. But sometimes they'll both pop off. Sometimes the thing before will pop off, like we don't know. And people who tell you, like, people who tell you they know exactly how the algorithm works and they can guarantee virality are the same people that sell lottery winning number books. So they're like the same camp of people. Now, are the chances 1 in 178 million, blah, 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 thousand that you'll get good, response from your content? No. But I put stuff out there and been like, yeah, I'll put this out there. And it's just like everybody's like, yeah, I think, and then like two people ping me and they're like, I want to work with you. And I'm like, and then I'll have something where I'm like, this piece of content right here, Leann, I think it might change humanity. I mean, it comes from the universe has blessed my mind with this piece of content, and I put it out, and it's like, chirp, chirp, chirp. Like one person likes it, and that's Rochelle who works for me, and that's her job. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what do you do? So I think at the end of the day, it's more about consistency and it's more about flow and systems than it is about one, two, or three times a day.
Yeah, and to
That's
your
my
point,
answer.
I think a lot of people have to see something more than once. So if they have to see it, what's the number now? How many times do people have to see something before it starts to actually sink in?
I mean, it depends on what metric you're looking at, but
Right.
like in the sales industry, it's 24 touches before they'll turn their head. It used to be just in the last 5 years it's doubled. It used to be 12 touches and in the last 5 years it's doubled. Might even be higher now cuz I haven't checked it for about 3 or 4 months. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's roughly 25, 24, 25 touches before people even turn their head. But here's the thing. And I was thinking about this and maybe this will fit later, I don't know, but content is a journey, not a destination. I said this just a few minutes ago. Some people on a journey, they want to get from point A to point B as quick as possible. So they're going to hop in, the fastest flight from New York to LA. Now, some people, they like to take their time. They like to stop overnight here. They stop overnight there. So we have to allow for the journey to. I've had some people who hear me on a podcast, go to the website, call us, get a demo that day, sign up that day, and they're in the podcast studio in 3 days. It has happened. I've also have some people that have followed me since day one, and they're like, well, I've now read 800 of your daily emails, and I've now, watched 37 of your podcasts, and I've now seen your website, and I'm ready to work with you. And I'm like, finally, so we don't know other people's journey, and we have to allow for that. Again, we have to allow for humanity. It's not formulas that wins business. It's allowing for humans to find you in the way that is most comfortable for them.
I just disc profiled both of those people, by the way. 10% for the first one, 33% for the second one you mentioned. Absolutely. And, if it takes 25 touches and you're only posting once a day, that's assuming you're posting the same content 25 times once a day. I mean, that's going to take a long time for some people to start, as you said, turning their head. So if
Well,
somebody,
everybody should have a core message.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
so it's 25 touches. So everything
Touches.
revolves around that message,
Hmm.
but it can't feel like it's the same like message. You don't post the same content 25 times.
Right.
It's 25 like different touches. And I know you have another question, but I want to give this illustration. So just today, Re- Rebecca, one of our show coordinators, we had somebody fill out an application to work with us, and we sent it to her, and she goes, that's one of my leads. I've been calling them for like a month. They never pick up. They never answer. I think I've maybe got them on the line once and they were busy. And then they heard a podcast and then they were like, okay, now I'm going to call these people. I'm going to meet with them and I want to work with them. So again, you've got to have like all these different touch points, your site, podcast, email, social media, all of these different touch points, because certain people are going to only listen to some of those. Certain people are only going to be reached by all of those. And certain people are going to, just stay along for the ride forever.
Yep, absolutely. So if somebody is trying to build authority over the next year, what should they focus on?
They should be focusing on the message and the person they want to deliver it to. Because if they are, otherwise, you're just wildly driving and no roadmap, no direction. You're just like, I hope I find a customer. And you're like opening your car, rolling down your window everywhere you go, being some creep. Are you my customer? Some some teenager on the side of the road. Are you my customer? Like, you can't be that creep pulling up in a van and saying, hey, are you my customer? Like, you have to have a roadmap. You have to know your person. You have to know the people you work with. And then you have to refine your message. But here's the thing that most people don't realize: the message is already refined. You don't have to create a whole new persona, a whole new messaging structure, a whole new methodology to reach clients. You have to take what is already refined, which is, for me, just flapping my gums, just talking. And you have to take that message and then you have to package it correctly for the right audience.
Beautiful. Well, it's time for our favorite part, the moment we've all been waiting for. Another quick lightning round. Ready?
Let's go.
True, false, or frou? Give me your gut reaction. True or false? You should only post when you have something important to say.
That is false.
Quality always beats quantity.
That is false. That is frou. There's
That
some
is,
nuance to that one.
go with that. Posting every day will annoy your audience.
That is false. And listen, the people that sold you that, they don't understand. They don't understand where we are and where we've been for at least 10 years.
Well, I just have to mention every social media does not push every one of your posts to every one of your followers. Right there
Exactly.
makes that false.
Well, yeah, and we could talk about the algorithm and really geek out here, but just ask me the next question before I go on another tangent, please.
Okay. A single viral post can build authority.
That is, I want to give nuance to it. I'm going to say Fru because
Okay.
that's not entirely true or entirely false.
Consistency is more important than perfection.
That is true.
Okay. And if I only have, oops, I've got two left. If I only have time for one post a week, I shouldn't bother.
That's not true. A little bit of something is infinitely more valuable than a whole bunch of nothing.
Excellent. And finally, most professionals dramatically underestimate how much content they need.
That is very true.
Very true. Okay. Well, thank
It's
you.
funny to me. Can I just say this?
Yeah.
We admire people who post 100 times more than we're willing to post. Like most of these people that we admire, the Bartletts, the Gary V's, the whatever, whoever, they literally have people that they're like hundreds of people that they outsource clip farming their stuff and they just throw their clips out there constantly, constantly, constantly. And yet we say, yeah, but for me, my content game is posting twice a week. No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Well, thank you for that great breakdown, DM. If there's one thing to take away from today's conversation, it's this: authority isn't built by your next best piece of content, it is built by showing up consistently over time. This episode kicks off a brand new series all about authority in practice, the systems, the habits, the content strategies that actually drive growth. Because knowing why authority matters is one thing, but building it every week consistently is something else entirely. It's not a theory or a framework. We didn't record this just to hear ourselves talk. It's about how we actually build authority for our network and for our 200 plus clients in the network. And we want to help you grow, even if you never work with us directly. So, in the next episode, we are tackling another big question. Should you spend your time building your own audience or borrowing someone else's? We'll break down the difference between owned audiences and borrowed audiences, when podcast guesting makes sense, and when it's time to build your own media platform. If you got value from today's episode, make sure you're subscribed. And if you want a deeper breakdown, template, and monthly reports on topics like this, join our email list. We've got more than 45,000 attorneys learning how to build authority online and reading our daily emails. And if you want help building your podcast, your content ecosystem, and your authority system, you can apply to work with us. The links are in the description. I'm Leann Lyon, and if you want even more fun, check out our animated show building authority through media, where DM fights marketing villains as Bam Ma'am. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Authority Matters.